Remember a couple days ago we played a game of is it a cold or is it allergies? I think it was allergies, guys. I think I'm actually okay. Still a little snuffly though, but that's because it went from pouring rain here in Los Angeles to like 65, windy and sunny, and my sinuses don't know what to do with themselves because I'm a fragile little butterfly, and I'll make it, I promise. Welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Besbris, and we have a Thursday recap show to dive into. I want to start with a look at the Lakers and the Knicks, and I also made a brand new way of displaying things here on YouTube, so hopefully you guys like that. I can make the Basketball Monster recap page as large as humanly possible. I'm hoping that you guys can read that. I can zoom in a little more if you need me to. Basically, where we're at now is that Jalen Brunson's injury has to be the big story of the night. Lakers came back, beat the Knicks in overtime. It was a really fun ball game, back and forth affair. Brunson was awesome. LeBron was great. Luka was solid. Neither one of them got much in the way of help. I mean, you could point at other guys who scored on the Knicks side, at least. Not so much for the Lakers, but nobody did so efficiently. It was a knockdown, drag out. I've messed up that expression. And then Brunson went in for a layup, and for some reason, decided to go whirling in backwards. And I hate to blame it on this, but it kind of looked like foul baiting. And I hate that that's the way that thing ended up. But he kind of went in face first into Austin Reeves and then spun for reasons I have no idea why. And he came down awkwardly with his foot. He laid it on Reeves' foot, which obviously happens in the NBA all the time. It's why there are 1,000 sprained ankles a day. But because Brunson had rotated and was actually now backwards by the time it happened, he landed on Reeves' foot. And instead of rolling sideways, his foot actually rolled all the way forward on top of the ankle. It almost bent over the foot instead of tipping to the side and then coming back. It looked bad. He's not a high fly act, so the only hope here is that because he wasn't coming down from an absurd height, that maybe this isn't a devastating ankle injury, but I would be floored if Jalen Brunson is back within a week. Beyond that, I don't really know. Could he be back in 2 weeks? Yeah, it's a possibility. I'm not a doctor, but I saw what I saw, and it was bad. So, the news of the morning, I know it took me 2.5 minutes of Jalen Brunson to get to it, is you got to add Miles McBride. And the beautiful part is that you're not going to be fighting people for him who didn't see the injury live. Because post-game reporting, of course, as it always is oh, team is optimistic that it's only a sprained ankle. Okay, well, if you watch the video, you know that even if it's quote-unquote only a sprained ankle, it was a gnarly one. And gnarly sprained ankles take time. I mean, look at Noah Clowney. Dude's been out for a month and a half on a sprained ankle. I'm not saying Brunson's going to be out a month and a half. He might be back before the regular season's over. He might be back in 7 to 10 days. But my guess is that it's more than that. And if you're in your playoffs right now, and Deuce McBride had an 0-for-6 game yesterday, where none of that was basically filling in for Jalen Brunson other than the last minute of overtime, because that's when it happened, basically at the very, 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 very end of overtime. There was no indicator. There was no Deuce big ball game here where people are oh, Deuce is picking up the pieces for Jalen Brunson. But we've seen it 1,000 times with the Knicks. Miles McBride is the guy who picks up a bunch of playing time. Campaign is also going to get to do more. Make no mistake, he will also pick up some of the time. But when the Knicks are down a guard, they typically go to McBride. He could suck. It's possible. Everybody could always suck. But I picked him up basically everywhere. Because I think McBride is going to be playing 38, 39 minutes a game, because that's what Tom Thibodeau does with his guys for the next couple of weeks. And when he does that, he's a pretty good source of points and threes and steals, and tends to sort of get a couple of the other things as well. And to me, that was the biggest story from last night, was the Jalen Brunson injury, which happened literally, that was at 10 o'clock Pacific time. It was late as hell. East Coast was long since asleep before that injury shook out. So you got an opportunity, and this doesn't happen all that often. You have a legitimate opportunity to get the pickup the following morning, because people might just not know what happened late last night. Friends, please take a moment to subscribe to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball and follow me on social media at Dan Bespers on Twitter, Old Man Squad on the Blue Sky Network. If you have a moment also to hit the like button and drop a 5-star review on the show. It's really is important, not as much right now when not that many people are looking for new fantasy basketball content, but as we roll into next year, and I've got so many cool announcements to make on the Old Man Squad side, but we can't do it until the offseason comes, which, by the way, I do shows all offseason long. Don't let us drift into the background. Let's talk basketball through the offseason. I'll be here with you. We're not doing 2 shows a day, and we're not doing shows on weekends, but we do shows all offseason long. And all offseason long, I would assume that you guys are also going to hang out with us at Bet Online. Yeah, you know where I was going with that. It's the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-timer, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. Boasting the largest selection of odds on everything from NBA to college basketball to the NHL, UFC, baseball's like 2.5 weeks away now. The Tokyo series is coming up so close, you can almost taste it. I don't know why you'd want to taste baseball, but I bet it tastes pretty good. Every three-pointer, every hat trick, every game, every play, and every win, BetOnline has you covered. BetOnline, the game starts here. Let's go back to the top of the board and work through it game by game. There were a couple of the things that I wanted to point out. Number one, we talked about this 2 days ago. In Chicago is Tre Jones, who's filling in admirably for Lonzo Ball right now. Josh Giddey was back. That was something that I was a little bit worried about might put a dent into Jones. Kevin Huerter also back. And none of that slowed down Tre, who had 20 points, 5 boards, 4 assists. He looked great. He's a high-efficiency, low three-point shooting point guard who gets assists and steals. And again, the nice percentages are a pretty sweet boost. The Jones brothers, that's just what they do, man. Although Tyus is a better outside shooter than Tre is. I don't know, and the problem here is I don't know how long Lonzo Ball is going to be sidelined. But, I mean, wrist stuff is weird. He's missed the last 3 games in a row. They haven't really diagnosed it. They're just calling it wrist, but they don't have much of a reason to rush him back. Same story with Vooch. Like, what's the point of blitzing these guys back into the lineup? There's no purpose. Chicago's better off losing at this point, although you might have to convince them of that. Unfortunately, I mean, so that's the upshot, is it might last for a couple of ball games. The downshot here is that the Bulls' schedule sucks. They have 2 games over the next 6 days. They have 2 games over the next 4 days, then they're off for 2 days, and then they have another game. And like, the schedule is just bad for Chicago. The best case scenario is every other day, which they've got going right now through Monday. So if you wanted to, I mean, if you're head-to-head, you're not picking up anybody today because they don't play tonight, but if you get a bad report on Lonzo or if he's ruled out or whatever, you might go Tre Jones tomorrow. Probably an easier play to make in a games cap format where there's no moves limit. You can pick up Tre Jones today, and if he's not the starter tomorrow, you just don't start him. You drop him and you pick up somebody else. But if he is, you can squeeze out that kind of top 60, top 75 fantasy game. That's what Roto is all about this time of year, is finding the extraordinarily high upside 1-game, 2-game fill-in dudes, because your starters are not going to play every day right now. That's just what happens in March and April in the NBA now. We got to get used to it. Vassellus was decent. He had 3 blocks and a couple of 3-pointers. I don't see the upside. Near 30 minutes, he's closer. I'm not a Vassellus guy. Not yet. Zach Collins was in foul trouble. He ended up fouling out in 12 minutes, as did his backup. Jalen Smith fouled out in 26 minutes. That didn't go so great. You would assume that Orlando got a lot of free throws, and they did. They took 40 in yesterday's ball game. I'm sure that game was super fun to watch because the Bulls took 30. Yeesh. Hold on to Zach Collins until Vooch comes back. He's been amazing, and if not for the foul trouble here, he probably would have been amazing again. For Orlando, Cole Anthony was back, and you got good Cole Anthony in this ball game, but it's kind of hard to know which one you're going to get, so I very much do not have the faith to start him against a games cap. I think you could make an okay case to start Cole Anthony in head-to-head leagues when the scheduling is decent. And for Orlando, that starts next Thursday. That's when the schedule gets better for the Magic. So if you can wait till next Thursday, that would be when you could play Cole Anthony. Right now, I don't think I would make the move. He's not good enough on any individual day to cover up the fact that their schedule sucks right now. Same story for Wendell Carter Jr. Good enough on a good schedule spot, not good enough without it. KCP, not even really good enough in a good schedule spot. I'm basically just playing Franz and Paolo on Orlando right now, and I'm not actually, I mean, technically I'm not playing Paolo anywhere, but if I had the right build, which is punt a bunch of stuff, then I would play Paolo. Orlando's annoying, man. Annoying fantasy team. Here's the new look 76ers, and nobody likes the look. It's like the new look Mavericks. I feel a little bit bad for these teams. I feel worse for the Mavs than I do for the Sixers, because the Sixers, like this, you could have seen this coming 1,000 miles away. Joel Embiid is not going to play a full season. I don't think we thought it was going to be quite this awful, but like, if your team is going to be reliant on Joel Embiid and Paul George, you kind of have to thread the needle from a health perspective. Tyrese Maxey getting hurt was the unfortunate one that I don't think we thought was going to be happening. But for Philly, it's tank time. They tried as long as was reasonable, and now it's not reasonable to try anymore. They're 21-41. They're absolutely terrible. They're literally right now a game away from being worse than the Raptors and like being in the bottom 5. And they badly need that pick to stay with them because it's top 6 protected. So everything suggests that Philadelphia should lose as many games as possible. There are very few teams in the NBA that have a stronger impetus to lose than the 76ers do. Because you could talk about these other teams that are bad and down at the bottom. Most of them have their pick, whether they get the 2nd pick or the 4th pick or the 7th pick. It's probably staying with them. Philly? Nope. They have to be near the bottom. They have to make their odds of having a pick in the top 6 as extraordinarily as humanly possible. They screw this up, then they just don't have a first-round pick. So I think the stars might be done for the 76ers. And I wouldn't be that surprised if you saw some of the other veterans eventually get shut down. But for now, Kelly Oubre is going to just destroy. For how long, it's hard to say. Quentin Grimes is a must-roster guy. He didn't shoot the ball well in this game, but he's going to play a lot, and he's going to shoot a lot. So that's good. I thought Gershon Yabusele would be better. He wasn't, which surprised me. I think I'll just move on from him in games cap format. Head-to-head, I mean, should move on from him in head-to-head also because Philly now has just they have 2 days off in a row before their schedule gets better again. They play Utah next, a game that they must find a way to lose. I like Andre Drummond, though. And if you don't have him on your roster right now, obviously don't pick him up with 2 days before his next ball game. But if you have him already, I think I would probably sit on Drummond. Because it looks like he's going to put up okay numbers the rest of the way, especially when there's really no usage guys around to soak things up other than if you want to call Oubre that. And keep one eye on Justin Edwards. I think he makes sense as a head-to-head stream because Philly has a 6-game and 9-day stretch that starts on Sunday. That's a solid run for him. But outside of that, I don't think I would go down that path. And then with Lonnie Walker, if you need points and threes over that run, he might also make a little bit of sense. It's dicey, though. I don't think I can give the seal of approval on Lonnie Walker just yet. For the Celtics, it's the same thing we've been talking about all week long, and so I don't want to spend more than about 30 seconds on it. They're going to be resting guys intermittently. It's what allows someone like a Luke Cornett to drop in, and he was very bad in the previous game, but he was much better in this one. This was the line you were looking for if you streamed Luke Cornett on the back-to-back. 9 points on a perfect 4-for-4 shooting, 7 boards, 4 assists, 4 blocks. He was great. Did you also stream, I don't know, Drew Peterson? You shouldn't have, because you probably hadn't heard of him until yesterday. If Sam Hauser was healthy, he would have been the other guy to consider for this one. But this is the way it's going to be for the Celtics. They're going to play their guys in meaningful games, and they're not in the ones that aren't. And they got the Lakers tomorrow, so you can expect the normal starting 5, provided Porzingis is actually healthy. So he might be out, and it might be Horford instead. And then against Utah on Monday, you can expect a lineup more like this one. OKC next Wednesday, they're probably going to play their guys. Miami, they might play their guys. Brooklyn, they probably won't. Brooklyn again, Utah, Portland. They've got a bunch of games coming up against teams that are kind of rat dookie or a little bit better than that. And those games, you're going to see half the Celtics not play. So be ready to drop in a Luke Cornett or a Sam Hauser and definitely keep Peyton Pritchard rolling because this is sort of his time of year now. Warriors behind their stars in this one. Came back and beat Brooklyn. They trailed by 20 very early in this game. Brandon Podziemski also got hurt. Had some back stuff. Unclear how bad it is. With backs, you just sort of don't know. Because it wasn't like the Maxey one where he fell from 9 feet in the air and just landed on his back. That one you could go, oh, ouch, like there's the impact. This one was kind of like, well, okay. Is it going to be Moses Moody? Is it going to be Buddy Hield? Is it going to be Gary Payton? We just don't know. There's no pickup there. If you're in your playoffs, I mean, the Warriors play again tomorrow. They host Detroit. They're back home. I think if we find out that Podziemski's out for that game, you drop him. Because the Warriors are in a bad scheduling spot right now. That game tomorrow is their only game other than Portland at home over 6 days. So they got 2 games over 6 days. They have 5 games over 10 days. No, that's not right. 4 games over 10 days. Excuse me. So if we hear anything negative about Brandon Podziemski, he's a drop. Otherwise, things are pretty obvious. Draymond, Steph, and Jimmy Butler are your play everyday guys right now. It's nice to see Draymond actually a fantasy asset again these days. And Steph, wide awake. He's been rolling, man. Steph is up to number 10 in 9CAD now. That's cool to see. Where's Jimmy Butler at? Has he moved up at all? It's been a weird year for Butler. He is still stuck at number 59. Well. It's too late to fix it for the season, but we can fix it for the stretch. For Brooklyn, Cam Thomas, 27 minutes, 18 shots. That's what you want, so start him. D'Angelo Russell looks indifferent. He had like 2 weeks where he was in prove-it mode, and now he's in I don't give a crap mode. I can't believe it, but I don't think D'Lo is a must-roster player. Although, again, head-to-head, 5-game week coming up. Even if he only plays in 3 or 4 of those, it's probably still worth it. Claxton's a start. Cam Johnson's a start. Cam Thomas is a start. And then with the 5-game week starting next week, you could probably stream guys like Keon Johnson, Tyrese Martin, Day'Ron Sharp, Zaire Williams, maybe even Jalen Wilson and Trendon Watford. There's a lot of names that'll pop up. But again, games cap guys, it's just those main 3, and D'Lo is now officially out of that pocket for me. Tyrese Halliburton got the day off. That sucked. I have a team in a heated head-to-head battle, and Halliburton's been one of the best players in all of fantasy sports lately. It was a hip thing, and they lost. I mean, like, 1-to-1 correlation here on how badly the Pacers need Halliburton. He's been amazing. I'm hoping he's back by tomorrow. If he's not, you have some injury replacement stuff to think about. Obviously, Pascal Siakam gets a huge bump. But more importantly, TJ McConnell and Andrew Nembhard get even bigger bumps. Nembhard had a double-double. McConnell had his 6 assists and 2 steals, but he up around 26 minutes. That's the thing you're looking for there. It's not about individual game production. It's about opportunity. And then you've got Aaron Nesmith, who I've been kind of back and forth on a little bit lately. I don't really trust him enough in games cap formats right now, although I probably should because he's running hot as hell. He's shooting 54% over the last 2 weeks and 93 from the free throw line, and that's carrying him. But we also know that that's not going to stick. He's not a 53-93 guy. He's a 46-82 guy. I'll give him credit, though. He shot closer to 50% over the last 2 seasons in Indiana. But again, the 90-some-odd foul shooting does feel a little bit fluky. The steals and blocks are not particularly high, so he's really kind of floating himself. They were better in this ballgame with intensely good percentages, which to me, I trust that more with head-to-head because if they dry up a little bit, it doesn't break your team the way that with Roto, you're like, that's what you're counting on if you're picking him up. He's basically a threes and percentages stream, kind of like Aaron Wiggins right now. And that's fine. I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying make sure you know what you're getting into. Because he hasn't done a whole lot else besides threes and points on good percentages over this hot run. 4 rebounds, I guess, isn't the worst thing in the world. But not many blocks, not many steals. Just be aware that it is a little bit specialisty, even if it doesn't look like it on paper. Because historically, at least for me, I've always thought about Aaron Nesmith as a guy who does a little bit of a bunch of things. And lately, it's been a lot of like 2 or 3 things. Kind of an interesting little pivot. The Atlanta Wheel of Madness continues. And I'll tell you about the Wheel of Madness after I remind you all to please hit that subscribe button. Oh, I forgot to make the graphic bigger. Idiot, Bespris. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sure many of you are yelling at me, and then at least now I looked at it for the first time in 15 minutes. Don't even bother subscribing after that snafu. By the way, here are the numbers that we were looking at before. For those that are watching along with us that didn't get to see it, there's Philadelphia. You can pause there if you want. Boston, if you'd like to pause. Here's Golden State. We'll just spend like 3 seconds on each one. 1, 2, 3. And there's Indy. And now here's Atlanta. This is where we left off. So we've got the 3 main guys in Atlanta: Okongwu, Trae Young, and Dyson Daniels. That's the easy stuff. We've talked about Karis LeVert, George Niang, Zachary Reese-Shea, Terrence Mann, Clint Capella, barely Mo Gay. There's basically 5 schedule plays, and nothing's changing the way I feel about those dudes. If you want to pivot off of them today, I'm totally fine with that. If you want to stick with them through tomorrow, I'm fine with that as well. I would recommend pivoting off of them on Sunday. Although Hawks do have a 4-game week next week. It's every other day, though, so you're sort of locked in for the duration if you want to go that path. They're not bad streamers. You know, Niang had a good game here. LeVert had a couple of good games earlier in the week. Reese-Shea had one good one bad one, and now kind of one in the middle. And, like, again, in aggregate over 4 days, it's a pretty good line for the whole week. But I don't know, like it's still a streaming slot. So if you can find somebody who plays more often, that's also okay. I'm indifferent towards a pickup or a drop. If you have a Hawk, you can just sort of ride him for 2 weeks if you want to. Houston had most of their guys here. Still no Freddie VanVleet after the ankle re-aggravation thanks to the foot of a referee. Tari Eason was great. That's awesome. Love me some Tari Eason. No surprises, really. Jabari Smith Jr. is a schedule-level play only. So is Dylan Brooks. And Jalen Green is more of a punt build guy. So pretty easy for Houston. Let's keep moving on that front. Oh, guys, I got a shot to get this sucker in under 30 minutes. I love it when that happens. Trey Murphy was very good. Zion was decent, and everybody else was bad. This is a bad matchup for the Pelicans because the Rockets are a very, very tough-nosed team. And so I want to say the sort of light and breezy part of the Pels had a tougher time, but that is kind of what happened. Like Trey, with his floor spacing, there isn't really much that most teams can do about his stuff. It's going to just come down to whether or not you get a good Trey day or a bad one. Zion, similar issue. There just aren't that many teams that can stop him. But then, you know, like teams can defend Kelly Olynyk pretty well, and they did here. But I'm holding Olynyk. Yves Missy, I think, he is more of a, if you're a punt free throw build, he's probably playable, but he's like right on the borderline of schedule level guy. But New Orleans actually has a good schedule right now. They played 1 yesterday. They've got 2 over the weekend, and then their schedule gets a little bit more light next week. So I would certainly hold whatever streaming Pelicans you have through Sunday. If you're in the games cap side, Trey Murphy, Zion, and probably Olynyk. Oh, and CJ McCollum. Those are the 4 of the guys you can play against a games cap. Everybody else, literally everybody else, Alvarado, Matkovic, Missy, Hawkins, all these guys, schedule level dudes. Because it's all specialists these days. It's funny, you're like, the head-to-head and Roto split is, I would say, small to medium in size for most of the season. You know, you're always looking for upside. For like the first 4 months of the season, both head-to-head and Roto, you're hunting upside. You're hunting for fill-in guys that are going to give you 2 or 3 really, really, really big games because you're not using up every single weekly move in head-to-head. And then Roto, you've got infinite moves, so you're always looking for those upside guys. And you don't really need the plotters in Roto. And head-to-head, sometimes they make sense. If your team is banged up, you need somebody that's just healthy, which is, there is a usefulness in that. But then right around now, maybe a week or two back as you're leading up to the playoffs, in head-to-head, it all comes down to game volume and statistical makeup. And Roto, you're still hard charging upside, but it's like specialist upside. So they're just, what you're looking for in the two formats is so different right now. And it's why these shows, which could really be fast if we were just talking about chasing upside, are not that fast, because head-to-head, you're not right now. Luke Cornett is not chasing upside. Luke Cornett is chasing blocks and field goal percent and a little bit of rebounding over 3 games and 4 nights, or over 7 games and 11 nights. Like, I might just hold on to Luke Cornett until next Saturday. He's not a great basketball player. He's barely a good basketball player by NBA standards, but he's going to get almost starters minutes in probably 4 or 5 of Boston's games over those 7. And you just sort of like swallow the pill in the other ones. It's a jagged little pill, isn't it? Anyway, if we were just chasing upside, I'd pretty much only be telling you about Tre Jones and Miles McBride and like Andre Drummond and all the other pickups we've talked about that are probably on your roster already. But we're not. There's all these other things to shake out. On the Lakers side, we already talked Knicks because, you know what to do with your New York guys. Austin Reeves came back from his very, very, very mild calf thing, which I have to admit, and I put this out on Twitter and everybody pushed back on me about it. I just pray that this wasn't a situation where the Lakers could have easily held him out for one more game just to like guarantee health. And I'm going to trust that they got it right because they've been playing really well. And the Lakers know that like they're okay. They're the 2 seed and they've got a big, big cushion over the play-in. And frankly, they have an okay size cushion over just having home court in the first round of the playoffs because the Grizzlies are now 2.5 games back. But, oh man, we've seen so many times this year where guys come back from soft tissue stuff too soon. And former Laker Anthony Davis maybe being the really big one. Cam Thomas, though, good Lord, came back too soon and ended up playing 2 games over 3 months because of it. I'm not saying that that's why Reeves was bad. I think he was just a little bit rusty and he had an off shooting night. But I am a tiny bit nervous about it. Otherwise, for the Lakers, Jackson Hayes, 33 minutes before fouling out. I know it wasn't a game that you're going to write home about, but he got his 3 out of 5 shooting. He made his free throws. He got his 2 blocks. He's a great specialist play right now. You're not looking for anything else. I mean, hell, he even got 3 assists for you, which is kind of a nice little boost. The only thing I think I might have wanted is like maybe he takes one more shot over 33 minutes. But the Knicks did a pretty good job of keeping him out of just the easy dunk zone. And Tom Thibodeau was not going to give up a bunch of freebies. But for the moment, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, those are the easy ones. Austin Reeves is a guy who, I've talked about the fact that he's probably going to trend down a little bit. And the more comfortable Doncic gets, the less Austin Reeves is going to have to run things because they're staggering Luka and LeBron, meaning there really isn't going to be a time that Reeves is running the offense if both of those 2 main superstars are in there. I do think that with Rui Hachimura out, Jackson Hayes is worth a play in a lot of formats. If you don't need the 2 or 3 categories he's very, very useful at, then don't pick him up. But a lot of you need at least 1 and maybe 2 of those. Jackson Hayes is such an interesting example of this time of year also. And I keep looking at one league that I'm in. I don't know if you guys remember my good buddy Vince Miracle from way, way back on this show, but it's a Vince Miracle league. And I keep looking at my team and wondering, how is this team working? But it's just creating the right blend of players and the right punt. I ended up punting points, threes, and free throws in this league. Threes and free throws more than points, I think, because every once in a while my team scores okay. But it's a pretty weird punt. My team is extraordinarily good in field goal percent, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks, and okay at points and okay at turnovers. So the nice thing is I have 5 categories I feel extraordinarily strong in. I have 2 that I could win as like kind of a little less than a coin flip on any given week. And that's made my team very, very, very tough going into the playoffs in that league. But then I look at the team and I'm like, how is this team winning? Halliburton and Kevin Durant at the top is obviously a very good start. Gives you a nice, smattering of a lot of stuff, assists on good percentages, but I end up punting free throws anyway. And like, this team has Isaiah Collier on it, and Draymond Green, and Jared Allen, and Walker Kessler, and like Dyson Daniels is a big part of this team because of the steals and blocks, and Tari Eason because of the defensive stats. And then there's just like, I have like 6 centers on top of it. It's a weird team, man. It has no business winning, but it does because guys like Jackson Hayes end up on this team for a week and a half, and I need the field goal percent and the rebounds and the defensive stats, and that's what they do. So use your moves effectively. The Lakers' schedule's not great this week, but they roll into the best schedule on the history of NBA basketball on March 13th. Just be ready. That's go time for Lakers. You don't have to do it right now because starting today, they have 2 games over 6 days, but then they have 6 games over 8 days after that. March 13th, mark your calendar. I almost don't care who's healthy for the Lakers and who's not. Your fringe guys are going to be worth streaming there. That would include Vanderbilt and Hayes and Vincent and Connect and Dorian Finney-Smith and frickin' Tre Jemison. All these guys that have no real business, Hayes excluded, being started daily. 6 games in 8 days, that's plenty, especially because there's almost no chance that Luka and LeBron play in all 6 of those games. None. 5 of those 6 games, I mean, maybe even all 6, at least 5 of those 6 games are against, 4 are against really good teams. The 5th is against a team that still fancies itself decent. And then the 6th is a team that knows it's kind of on the wrong slide this year. But they got Milwaukee twice, Denver twice, Phoenix, and San Antonio. If I'm the Lakers, I probably rest my superstars on the back-to-back in altitude. So Milwaukee, they'll play the game in Milwaukee, especially if they win it. Rest them in Denver. That's a terrible trip. Then you give yourself 2 days off on both sides of the Milwaukee game before the back-to-back Phoenix-San Antonio. And maybe you rest him again on the Milwaukee game at the very end of it. I only bring this up because Reeves would get a big bump, and if Rui's back, he'd get a big bump, and all these other guys would play just a little bit more. And Roto head-to-head, whatever, like you pick the right spot, it works out for you. I got sidetracked and I went over 30 minutes again, guys. I'm sorry. UnderdogFantasy.com is a proud partner of us here at Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. You guys remember we won yesterday. That's 2 in a row, baby. Starting to get it going here on the show. We're back up. We're actually over the starting number. Shout out to Underdog, by the way. They gave me $100 of credits. It's not cash. I got to play with it. But I'm now up. We're up to 108.74. And if I hadn't lost the first 2 wagers like an idiot, we'd be up a pretty good chunk right now. But I've figured it out, and you guys are enjoying rolling with us on this, I'm sure. Sign up today using promo code OLDMAN to unlock up to $1,000 in bonus cash at a 50% clip on your first deposit and a freebie. Use that freebie when you're ready to turn a 2-player pick'em card into a 1-player pick'em card. That's right. All you'd have to do is pick one. The freebie promo means that one other player has to score like 1 point. So you just click it, you put them in your lineup, and then you only have to hit 1 to 3x your entry fee. You can go bigger if you want. You guys know with me, I typically like to just pick the minimum 2 because that is the best odds of just taking home a win. Let's take home a win. Let's grow our bankroll slowly here at UnderdogFantasy.com. I haven't had a chance to look through it yet. For the Knicks, that's a team I would look to some of these guys. I mean, we know Ivica Zubac has kind of been swallowing dudes up, so I don't know that I would go with kind of like the main guys, but check back a little later on. See if Miles McBride gets a projection, because he'd be a guy I'd look at on the Knicks side. Looking at some of these other ones, San Antonio, Sacramento, that's the De'Aaron Fox back in Sacramento game. I mean, if that's a spot you'd like to go higher, I think points, rebounds, and assists, that would be an interesting one for him, because you know he's going to be going big, and you know the Kings are going to want to prove something. So who do we think is going to be that guy on their side? Well, you know, Keon Ellis is an intriguing one, but I think I'd wait to find out if Malik Monk is playing. We'll just throw him on our board here so we don't forget about him. But those are probably the two guys I would look at in that one. If you're going to look at some of these other games, let's see. Cleveland, Charlotte. Oh, do we have a Ty Jerome one? Give me Ty Jerome, please. Oh, there we go. Ty Jerome, 13.5 points. There is almost no way Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland are in this game. I'm not going to lock this in until I find out one of them is out. But as soon as we find out either Garland or Spida is resting against the Hornets, I'm throwing a Ty Jerome play into the mix. That one's like a layup if we find out that they're ruled out. And then, do we want to go Dallas? I've been cashing in a little bit on Dallas because they're cut down to their prime here. Najee Marshall was an easy one last time. They raised his number up to 27.5. He'd be a guy to look at. Santi Aldama would be one I think I would look at because it sounds like he's going to play, and JJJ is out for a while. Do I want to throw Najee Marshall in the mix too just to have him there? I mean, what do I have here? 5 players. I'm not going to play all 5 of these. Just know I'm going to probably pick 2, maybe 3 out of these 5 guys, and that's probably where we'll go. But stay on top of it, folks. Stay on top of the news. Find out if Santi Aldama is playing. He did participate in shoot-around, so that's good. Again, I don't know if the Cavaliers are going to rest somebody. I think they will. As soon as you get that news, boom, lock it in. Be ready to go. Write down your names. Move fast. Maybe you can even get it before they might change the projections. And then we can all win together. Or hell, maybe I'll put a 5-player card out there today. We go nuts. Play with us if you like at UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code, once again, is Old Man. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing in advance. I know you're going to do it because you're super friendly out there, and it's very easy to hit that button. We've got stuff going all off season long. And again, streaming shows every day through your fantasy playoffs. These are the guys to pick up and drop based on schedule. I'm going to cart you through as best I can. I will be your fantasy playoff Sherpa. Give me your animals of burden and your bags, and I will get you to the top of the mountain, or damn it, we'll die trying. A little dark, I guess. Oof. We got baseball draft content. We've got DFS. We've got specialist shows. So much growth here at Old Man Squad. And again, I'm like counting down the days so I can tell you the other really big news of what we got coming up here at Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball, but that will be when the offseason kicks in. I am Dan Bespris for Old Man Squad. Thanks for watching again. I'll see you guys later today. Streaming time.